All right, so our agenda for today is we're going to just briefly talk about the homework that's returned. So is this just Ryan's here? Yeah. So we'll leave it here just in case he makes it. We'll talk briefly about that, and then we're going to go over a power calculation problem, weightlifting example like we did last week, and just make sure you remember how to do that. And then I'm going to give you a quick test overview so you know what's coming on Thursday's assessment. It's a 45 point, so it's not like a full-blown 100-point test, but it's more than like a little 10, 20-point quiz. So it's kind of somewhere in between. It goes in the test quiz category though. So, and then we'll give you a packet of problems to practice power. Wow, that was like impressive alliteration there. So that you can have a chance to work out some of those for preparation for the test. All right. So on the homework that I returned, basically what I did was just looked it over and make sure you showed the work. We went over all of them in class at least. We went over the ones you had questions about. We shared the answers for all of them. So as long as you showed your work for all of them, then you got full credit. I just kind of looked them over quickly to make sure that you did that. I would highly recommend that you use that in review for the test, quest, quiz, whatever you want to call it, for Thursday. Do you have any questions about that assignment? Yeah, Simon?
Is the test gonna be this format?
We'll go over that here in a little bit.
Oh,
yeah. Anything else about the worksheet? All right, so we're gonna quickly review a power calculation problem. Make sure you recall the process, the thinking, the steps. We've got the equation over here on the board, and a little bit later when you're working on the worksheet and we're just reviewing, I'll also give you, I think I've got some 3x5 cards left, if you want to put some of these on a card so you're not having to look at the wall. And then you can also add some other notes. It just has to be limited to a 3x5 card, so you can't get a larger one, but we'll give you a chance to create those if you want today as well. All right, whoops. There we go. No, that's the one we did before. It's got them out of order. All right, here we go. So here we can see that in the picture, we got a weightlifter pressing the weight above his head, 50 centimeters each repetition. And the question is, what is the weightlifter's total power output if he does 3 sets of 10 lifts and he's lifting 70 kilograms and it takes him 5 minutes to do that, right? So give you a couple minutes. You can put it on scrap paper. If you'd rather use a whiteboard, you can. If you want to do it on the back of that worksheet. But I'd like you to try to see if you can calculate that out to prepare for that test coming up. If you're having trouble getting started, here's a hint to get you going. One thing you need to do is make sure you convert the time from minutes to seconds.
Mr. Webb, I forgot. All the blue ones, the blue equations, are those, do those all represent what?
Well, work is just the W,
Just the W?
but there's a work energy theorem that tells us that whenever work is done, that's going to translate it to some sort of adjustment of energy. So it might be done to change potential energy, it might be done to change kinetic energy, it just depends. But if we're calculating work, W is the only one that literally represents it.
Alright.
So over here, we've got work equals FD, work equals M times G times the change in height, or in other words, the change in gravitational potential energy, and then work equals the change in kinetic energy. So you can calculate work any of those ways, but by definition, it's just the W. All right, and then in terms of calculating the work, here's the next step to kind of make sure you're on the right track. You'd want to take the force times the distance, and so the force would be the weight, and here they've used 10 instead of 9.8, so they just got 70 kilograms times, you could use 9.8 here, that's fine. That would be the weight, mass times G. And then the height is 0.5 centimeters. Remember, you can't, or sorry, that should be meters, not centimeters. Let me just correct that real quick. I can't use centimeters, has to be meters. And then this 3 times 10 is just because they did 3 sets of 10. So if they had just done it 10 times, you'd multiply by 10. If they had only done it 1 time, you'd just not multiply by anything, or you could think about it as multiplying by 1. But the force is the weight of it. The distance is the half a meter, the 50 centimeters. And then they just happen to do it 30 times. Yeah, Laura?
Wait, so I did the work divided by time, and I got 1.14.
Did you find, this is just the work so far. Did you find the work this way? 70 times 10 or 9.8?
I did everything except for the 3 times 10.
Okay, so then what did you get when you divided by time?
When I did that, 1.14.
Okay, so you need to multiply that by 30, because they
Okay.
did this 30 times. Since it says they did 3 sets of 10. So the final step then, once we get the work, 10,500 joules, we do have to divide that by time. And here, they're multiplying it by 30 now, but the way Laura did it, she found the work for 1 rep and then multiplied it by 30 at the end. Doesn't matter, you can multiply by 30 at the beginning or the end. And so what do I do with this work to find power? Divide it by time, and we have to make sure the time is in seconds. So we'll take that 10,500 joules divided by 300 seconds, and you should get about 35 watts. So when you multiply that 1.4 times 30, you should get pretty close to 35 watts. Is that what you got, Laura?
Yeah, I just did by 9.8.
Yeah, so it'll be slightly different, but it should be pretty close to 35. If you do 9.8, it's gonna give you probably 34 or something.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So power is work divided by time, work is force multiplied by distance, and you have to make sure your distance is in meters, and you have to make sure your time is in seconds to be able to get the correct units, because watts for power is joules per second, and joules is newtons times meters. So we have to have everything in the correct units. And that's something you need to make sure you remember for the test, is that if it gives you centimeters, you got to move the decimal 2 places or divide by 100, whichever you prefer, to make it meters. Do you have a question, Casey?
Oh yeah, I was just asking if we can do another one.
Well, we're going to do a whole worksheet of them
Oh,
for like a review sheet.
okay.
Yeah. So we'll do those in class. We'll have you put them on the board, and we'll just basically be practicing and reviewing. We're not going to cover anything new today.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about this one? I will say this question is slightly more complicated than the one on the test, because this has like 3 sets of 10 you're not gonna have to worry about the 3 sets of 10 kind of deal. It's just gonna be whatever they do, they just do it one time. And so you just have to basically find the work divided by the time. You might have to change centimeters to meters still, and you might have to change minutes to seconds, but you won't have this whole 3 sets of 10 sort of deal. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the format of the test then. So as I mentioned earlier, the test is worth 45 points, and it does cover all 3 main concepts, work and energy and power. I did not put momentum. I think somebody asked that last week. Since I was able to teach you enough of that and we got it on the exam, I decided not to do any more review of that this semester. We'll just call that one good. So this is just on the 3 new topics. And the formatting is that there is a section of matching questions, and those 7 questions are primarily either keywords like work, energy, power, and their definitions. So we took notes the first day or 2 back on the definitions of those 3 keywords. And then also on the units. So knowing that like work is in joules and power is in watts. So there's some questions on the definitions, some questions on the units. That's primarily what you're going to be matching there, is the correct definition with the correct word and the correct unit with the correct word. All right. And those are just 1 point each, so that's 7 points. And then there's a multiple choice section, 6 questions. And those are just 1 point apiece. And those are a variety of things. Some of it's proportional reasoning, like if I double this, what will happen to that? Some of it is giving you a scenario and making you think it through more conceptually and not quite as calculation based where you're using a whole bunch of formulas. So those are the first 13 points.
Is the multiple choice for matching and have like definitions?
In the matching particularly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's your first 13 points. That'll probably go pretty quick. I don't think you'll need a bunch of time on that part of the test. And then there are 8 problems, and the problem solving questions, basically the first packet that we did, I've got it folded up here, but there was 1 whole page on gravitational potential energy. So I put 1 like that. There was 1 whole page on kinetic energy. So I put 1 like that. There was 1 whole page on work. So I put 1 like that. There was 1 whole page on elastic potential energy. So there's 1 like that. Okay. And then today you're going to have a whole page of practice on power. So there's 1 like that. And then the other 3, so basically all the single page topics, work, energy, power, all the different kinds of gravitational, electric, there's basically 1 example from each of those pages. And then the other 3 questions are like that conservation. It's the second page of the elastic potential energy where, oh, it starts as kinetic and then it's gravitational, and you put those equal to each other. So it's like what we've practiced. It was in your last, the assignment you just got back, and some that we're going to practice today. And then also ones like we practice in our notes. So those 3 are kind of mixed. You got to figure out it started with elastic and then now it's asking for gravitational. So that's gonna, like I said, we're gonna practice that some more today. Okay. And then there is 1 bonus question where you can earn up to 2 extra credit points if you get that one correct. And I won't reveal really anything about that one other than it is a calculation problem. And as I said, you may use a single 3x5 index card with notes. You can write on both sides and you can use that on the test. Let me just go ahead and pass that out now. That way if you think of things while we're reviewing today, you can just be kind of writing them down as you go. And you don't have to wait on that. And I have some with lines and I have some without lines. So if you have a preference, let me know. Do you want one? You want lines or no lines? Lines? You want one?
lines.
Lines, okay.
Or no lines.
Oh, no lines, okay, there you go. Got one?
Oh, yes.
Lines or no lines?
Doesn't
matter, okay. How about you, you want one?
I have lines, please.
Sure. How about you, Ashley? Alright, you want one, Nick? Any lines? No lines? Casey?
I'll have one.
Alright. You want one, Nico?
Lines.
Alright, lines? Same. You want one, Carson? Yeah, you want lines or no lines? There you go. So, like I said, you can use this on the test and anything, you can write anything you want on there, both sides.
Do we need to write the 4 minutes on here?
They'll still be, well, they actually might not be on the wall by the time you take the test, because we're gonna be erasing some of this to do some other work for my other physics classes tomorrow, so. If we can avoid using these two, I'll keep them on the wall, they'll be on there all day today. But I would put them on the 3x5 card just in case, so that you, if I have to erase them, you'll have them. Since I'm giving you the note card, I'm gonna have the freedom to erase it if we need to, if we need the space.
Do we still need our whiteboards?
I don't think so. I think everything else we do, we're gonna be doing this on the worksheet, and then we'll put them up here on the screen. All right, any other questions about the test? How to prepare, what to prepare for? All right, so I'll post this. So Ryan, if you end up watching this video, just a quick comment to you, feel free to come in during lunch or after school if you wanna ask any questions. The worksheet that we're gonna do today, because I'm gonna stop the recording because we're just gonna be working the rest of the time, so. But the worksheet that we're gonna be doing today, you can find on Access if you want, or you can come by and pick up a paper copy if you want. So I think we'll stop the recording for that, but feel free to come by for some help if you need it.